All right, so basically, there's a lot of things about an artist statement that are, let's say, like beautifully simple, but also like, you know, like horrifyingly vague, I guess, sometimes because there really isn't a lot of defined guidelines for the artist statement. But the content in general is, how do you do your art, or how do you make your art? What is your art, and why do you do or make your art? And that's it. And so on the next series of slides, I'm going to show you some of the prompts that I've gathered from a variety of sources that help you get to answering these questions. So we'll have a whole list of questions that relate to the how, a whole list of questions that relate to the what, and then a few questions that help you get to your why. And on the slides, I want you to take note of one prompt that sticks out to you that you think is relevant to your art, that you could answer pretty easily. And I want you to just jot it down or take a screenshot of it, either one, so that you can save that. And then at the end, if we have time, I don't think we'll have time, but at least I can sort of launch you to get started with that one prompt that you select. So I want you, in your brainstorming, even on your own, to start with your how and your what, because those are the easier sections. The why is a little bit harder to get to. So start by brainstorming these first two questions. So here's some prompts to help you get to the how. Again, just jot one down for later. How did you make this? How do you make this? How do you do this? How did or do you use the medium or combine mediums? How did or do you physically engage in the creation? How are you uniquely presenting the subject? How did you decide on this direction? How has exploration brought you to this work? How would you like the viewer or listener to approach the work? And how did you choose your palette or your instrumentation? All right, so jot one down to save, to get you going, to launch you into the brainstorming process. And then here's some prompts for the why. And all these prompts are on your handout, so don't feel like you need to write all these down. I put all these prompts on your handout that you're going to get. Here's the what, some prompts. What is the viewer looking at or the listener listening to? What are you investigating or communicating? What are you combining or breaking apart? What are you departing from? What was the initial inspiration and where did that lead? What story does it tell? What did you learn while making it? What keeps you curious or dedicated? And that can sort of overlap with your why. A lot of these will overlap between categories. What was or is involved? Collaboration, skills, tools, travel, research, technology, more than one attempt. And sometimes if you're like applying for funding from a funding institution, you'll have to say what's involved in terms of what exactly are they needing to fund. So you're going to need to cover that in other documents that you submit. But it can be good to mention in your artist statement as well. So pick one of those. Seems particularly easy to answer. All right, and then the why. This is the hardest one for a lot of us, because the why just has one main prompt, and that is, why did you make this? And why do you do this? If you're like a performance artist, why are you doing what you do? And this is the hardest one because a lot of us have a sort of sense about our art that it's something we either don't want to explain or we can't explain. And probably a lot of you that are here feel that way. And that's a perfectly fine way to feel, but it's not a helpful way to feel in this particular instance, I'm sorry to say. Now, if you feel like, man, my art's just really hard, it's really hard to talk about, and hopefully I'm not freezing, my internet's unstable, it says. Maybe you just feel like my art's really difficult to talk about. And if that's the case, then ask yourself, why is my art difficult to talk about? If you feel like I don't really have a why behind my art, I just do it. then that's something to talk about too. Why don't you, right? What does that mean? So try to investigate that a little bit if you do have that sense of not wanting to or not being able to explain why you do what you do. So, and really any artist that, and when I've talked to some of y'all, any artist that I asked, you know, what do you understand about your work, will never answer, I don't understand anything about my work, right? There's always going to be something there. So try to really dive deep and see if you can get to your why. And here's some questions to sort of help get you there. What do you believe in? What belief are you investigating? How does personal belief, viewpoints, convictions come through in your art? Again, these are all listed on your handout. What emotion was primary while you made or while you make your art? How does this emotion come through in the work? What were or are you thinking about during the process? Again, something, if you're having a hard time getting at the why, something you can focus on is the process. What steps do you take when you make your art, and why do you take them like that? Why do you choose the material you choose? That can help you get to your why too, and in more practical terms. What inspired this direction?